Dan Tokar here with Nick Blanton at Morphy's Auction in Denver, Pennsylvania. And today we're going to be looking at a Ferguson rifle. And I should ask you, why is a Ferguson rifle interesting?
Ferguson rifle is interesting because Captain Ferguson was an officer in the British Army in the mid-18th century. The Army had a problem with muzzle-loading small arms. You could have a gun that would load and shoot fairly quickly, a musket, but it would be very inaccurate. Or you could have a rifle that would shoot fairly accurately, but it would load slowly. Ferguson attempted to solve this problem by having a breech-loading rifle. This would be, of course, eventually what would solve the problem in the 19th century. So Ferguson's system was to have a rotating block, unscrew from the barrel, and then the soldier would load into the bottom of the barrel. Notice how very ingeniously the trigger guard here bumps up against the trigger to show the shooter how far down to go. Then the trigger guard would be rotated back, and then the gun could be shot. Another reason Ferguson is quite famous in this country is that he was at the Battle of Kings Mountain, and he died at the Battle of Kings Mountain, commanding a British force. For a long time there was a notion that he had some of these rifles there. There does not seem to be any evidence that this was the case. Nonetheless, the Ferguson rifle sort of goes along with him, an American legend. The rifle is not really totally sealed. Later on there would be brass cartridge cases that would seal the breech and make breech-loading rifles actually effective, much more practical. There's enough clearance, even though it's very tight, there's enough clearance there to allow gas out. Gas is about somewhere around 15,000 pounds per square inch. So it's going to tend to get out anyway. The important thing is that the system, the gas is vented out the top, so it's not going to hurt the shooter. And it's vented the sides here, and this is also lubricated, so it looks like there would be some sealing at the bottom end as well. Nonetheless, you suspect that the shooter's fingers would occasionally feel a little bit of a tingle.
Well, and the reason that we're here is because this was a rare opportunity that the kind people at Morphy's Auction allowed us to take measurements and microscopic photography of the tool marks to try and figure out how they made something like this in 1770. It's not a straightforward piece of machining for the time. They didn't have a lot of the machine tools that we have now, so it's a question. And as far as I'm aware, the people who have made reproductions of this and people looking for documentation from 18th century sources have not really documented the process of making one of these things. There's some beautiful reproductions out there, but nobody's sort of told us how they did it. And there's also the question of how would they have done it in 1770. So I've had the idea of making a series of videos where I'm going to try several of the methods that I think could have been done in the 1770s and compare my results with the pictures and tool marks and other observations we've made to see if we can kind of piece together a likely production method. And that's the big interest for me because as a blacksmith, I'm very curious about the technology. It's not obvious how you make something like this, at least not with 1770 vintage technology. So that's what we're going to try and explore in future videos. Thanks. Okay.
Let me see what we got.
And that is the action on a Ferguson rifle.